Last night, I was hanging with friends, having fun, chilling, the typical teenage stuff. On a playground, we were playing around on swings and what have you. And then I slipped on my way out, and my foot went too far back the other way. So now I've got this bad boy, and as such, I'm off from school today. So I figured, why not give this YouTube thing a try? And here we go. In 2016, I first watched the popular action anime Sword Art Online. I loved the show at the time, being immersed in the concept and the characters. I enjoyed it so much that I published 2 reviews for the show on my YouTube channel. Now, years later, I want to look back at those videos and see how much I agree with my old opinions. Let's start with my review for the first arc of SAO, published in February 2016. Hi guys, this is Aiden back, and I know I told you guys I was going to do a bunch of X-Files video. I'm going to get on that. I'm not going to do a separate one for each episode now because 3 have aired, so I figured I might as well just get all 3 of them out of the way in one video, and then I'll do separate videos for each of the next 3 as they air. Can't believe there's only 3 more left. But didn't happen. Didn't wind up happening. That was not true. But this is a surprise video because I didn't even think I would get into this. But my friend Will, he introduced me to Sword Art Online during a Dungeons & Dragons session. He showed me a lot of the first episode. So then I watched that first episode at Will's house, a lot of it, and then I was intrigued. So then after the session, when I went back home, I finished that episode, and then I got sucked into the hole of Netflix where I just couldn't stop watching it. Like, I finished the second episode, finished the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7th, 8th, 9th. Okay, there's a lot of video to go back and forth between. I feel like if I go back between that and me now, it's just going to be a lot of like back and forth, and it's going to be too long and too repetitive. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this book that has all of my scores for that original season, and for all 4 seasons of SAO, at least at the time of that recording, and I'm going to run down all my scores, and I'm going to tell you how they differ from how I would rate them now. So let's get into it. Okay, so when I first watched Sword Art Online, I had some pretty strong opinions about it. Most of them were incredibly positive. So let's do a rundown of each of the 10 categories that I used in my original video, and I'm going to say how I scored them then and compare them to how I score them now. It's going to be different. It's not going to be the same, just because I feel like my opinions have kind of diminished a little bit. I don't love the show like I used to. I used to think it was great, and I used to kind of ignore a lot of the problems I had with the show, just because I enjoyed some elements and some over others, and it was kind of just like nostalgia goggles, but like not nostalgia. I don't understand why I love the show so much. First category was animation, which I gave a 10 out of 10. And I still do enjoy the animation quite a bit. I do agree with my previous opinion that it was really beautifully done. It was very gorgeous. It was very well done. A lot of the sequences are shot so gorgeously. There are some really great visual effects that are used, like at the end of the season. Spoiler alert, when Asuna and Kirito both like vanish away out of the world. It's like a really clever like color. It's a black and white, like the lines are dissipating. It's a really beautiful effect. There are some really good visual moments in this show. And the reason why I'm lowering the animation score to a 9 out of 10 is just because I don't really hand out 10s out of 10 for this stuff anymore, really. Like, nothing can really get a 10 out of 10 for me unless it's a big wow moment, unless it, like, leaves me in awe. And this did not leave me in awe. A lot of it was really well done. It was well animated, for sure. But I don't think that it was incredibly, like, grabbing my attention. It wasn't anything that was, like, demanding to be seen. It was just competently done. And some of the moments were above average, and some of the other moments were very good. So, that's a 9 out of 10 for now. And then the voice work, which is dubbed, by the way, because I watched the dubbed, was 9 out of 10. And now I've changed it to an 8 out of 10. Simply because, while there are some very, very great performances in here from Bryce Papenbrook, he has some really good moments in this show, but I don't think that it's like across the board awesome. There are still some vocal inflections that don't really feel natural. There are some points where it feels forced and corny, which I know that happens sometimes, but it didn't work for me all the time. Some of the time it really, really did. Some of the time, like I said, Bryce Papenbrook's performance really worked for me. I thought it was really good. But there were still some moments that didn't quite land for me as well or as much as I would have hoped for them to. So that's going to be an 8 out of 10 for now. And then for character development, I previously gave it a 7 out of 10. Which is good that I didn't give that a perfect score because it's not perfect. And now I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. Simply because, oh boy, these characters are underdeveloped. A lot of them are so underdeveloped, it's insane. Well, there are some good moments, like the arc with Kirito learning to like distance himself from people through losing people in a guild that he was a part of. That's a good story element. That's decent character development. I like that a lot. I feel like that was well done. It was actually emotional. It was good. And while you can criticize the show for only using those characters to be killed off to hurt Kirito, and that's kind of cheap, I still feel like the way that they utilized it, at least in the story, and the sequences that were dealing with Kirito's emotional reaction to that, I grasped onto that. I really liked that. I thought that was really good. Well done. But then for half the other characters, they get zero development whatsoever, and it's really just introducing a ton of female characters so that they can be a part of Kirito's harem, which is one thing in this arc that I absolutely hate. I hate that because it is so ridiculous and it's stupid. It's just stupid. Can we just get that out of the way? Just because they're introducing so many characters just to be like, oh my god, Kirito's the best. I don't like this over-sexualization of these characters. I think it's the worst aspect of the show by far. This is just how I feel. I don't like it. It's pretty gross and disturbing. And it really does hurt the show overall because it seems to introduce these characters simply to have them be that for the show. Don't serve an overall narrative purpose. Like Lisbeth, sure, she makes Kirito a sword, but beyond that, she doesn't really do that much else. And Silica does not really contribute a lot to the story either. Especially Silica does not contribute a lot to the story. So character development is going to get a 5 out of 10. There's some good stuff, but a lot of stuff that's pretty bad. And then for action, I previously gave it a 10 out of 10. And I still do like the action in this show. I still do think it is visually well done, that it is very visceral at points, and it's pleasing to the eye. That's the big part of this action in this show, is that it is very, very visually pleasing. And so for that, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. I think it is well done, it is competent, and at some moments it's above competent, and it's actually really, really good. So, action is great. And for the score, I previously gave it a 10 out of 10. Now I'd go for an 8 out of 10, just because I don't think that anything was so game-changing or so crazy. I think it was a competent score that was used well, helped the dramatic beats in the show when it was needed, and sometimes it was just filler stuff, like in that fishing arc. Who remembers the fishing arc? I don't know. Music is definitely competently used. It's definitely well made, it's composed well, it sounds good. It's good music, I enjoy it. And then next up is the theme, which I previously gave a 10 out of 10. And all of you Lisa fans, don't come at me, because I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10 for now. I still do think it's a good theme. It serves the show well, but I don't enjoy it as much as I used to. It's not what I'm really into, at least when it comes to music and genres and stuff. So it's a theme that I can hear when an episode starts and still enjoy it and listen to it. And I enjoy the visuals with the theme as well. I think it's well done. And there's some really good moments in the theme that I enjoy a lot. But I don't think that overall it's anything incredible or crazy or wild. And then next up, characters, which I previously gave an 8 out of 10. I'm going to 6 on this. Because as has been pointed out by people to an insane degree, so often it's crazy. I don't feel as incredibly strongly about it. But Kirito is a lazy character. For a big chunk of the show, he's a lazy character. Like I said earlier, there are some good dramatic moments with him, but overall, it doesn't work. It's just really wish fulfillment main character, and I don't like that. It's mainly just because he is just such an overpowered character who can do everything just because the plot wants him to, which I guess for the season you could say that's just because he's been playing the show for a while and he knows the ins and outs and stuff. That's an okay explanation. It just doesn't really work for me, and I don't think it's the best. There are some decent characters in the show. Asuna for a chunk of the show, not the entire show, because they kind of butcher her a little bit later on. I think she's alright here. She's a strong female character, and it is exciting to see a character of that type in a show like this. But I do feel like the characters are decent enough to give a 6 out of 10 as opposed to an 8. It's not an 8 anymore. Then for story, I gave it a 7 out of 10, noting that in my previous video I said the core story was good, but they went all over the place. Good job, Past Me. That's on the money. The concept of this show is really good. It's actually a really interesting concept to have people trapped in an online video game. It's a whole new world they're not used to, and they cannot get out until they beat the game. Or if they die in real life and they're just done for good. They can't just like, come up out of the game and move on. It's really interesting. It's a good concept, and I feel like for when they used that as the core of the show, it worked. They didn't use it for the core of the show most of the time. Most of the time they just moved on and had filler stuff so they could expand Kirito's harem, which I do not like. I think it's a terrible idea. It does not work for the show, and it really does just like mess up the flow of the show too. It feels really rocky just because they spend a couple of episodes really developing the idea of like you have to go up through each level and you have to beat all the bosses and stuff, and then just totally abandon it and they just move on to other stuff. Which I understand there would be more to do in this world other than just beat the bosses, but it just feels like the show got bored with what it was trying to do and they just kind of switched around and tried everything to see what would work. It feels lazy. I don't like the way this was written. So, it gets a 6 out of 10 for me, even though they do come to some good conclusions with the final episode, which I'll touch on later. For the love story, I gave it a 8 out of 10 previously. 6 out of 10. It's too rushed, mainly because while I can feel there's a semblance of a connection between these two characters, they skip over very basic points that would be important to understand this relationship further. Like, they skip over their wedding, which is kind of strange and weird, and they just kind of really rush the relationship because although they do know each other for 2 years throughout the show, or throughout the season at least, they're dating for like a third of that, a quarter of that at most. It feels really rushed just because they go from like, they barely know each other, then they don't see each other for a long time, and then when they finally see each other again, they just kind of like, they're okay with each other, they're alright, and then they like fall in love, and then they get married, and they meet Yui, and they have a family, and then the season is over. It feels like it's just very... It's very uneven. It doesn't feel like it evens out, or doesn't feel like it makes much sense to the viewer, or at least to me. So, I give that a 6 out of 10 just because I feel like it could have been better made, and I feel like it could have been more natural throughout the show. In the finale, I previously gave it a 10 out of 10, and I still do really enjoy the finale. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10, solely because I feel like the fact that the show got back onto its main idea, its main concept at the very end, and kind of tried to pull together a good finale that could, like, tie things together and make it not seem like it was, like, meandering and ridiculous, which it was, but just to kind of tie it together and make it seem like it was all worth it with a worthy finale. I wouldn't say it's an amazing finale, or the best it could have been for this concept, but I still do feel like there are a lot of thrills here. There are some really, really good moments, some character moments that are very good. And then there's some stuff I'm not a huge fan of. Like, I'm still very iffy on, like, Kirito dying and then just, like, forcing himself, willing himself back into existence just to stab Heathcliff. It feels forced. It feels like it's just like, well, Kirito is, like, so powerful, so he can, like, reanimate himself and stab Heathcliff. If they both killed each other at the same time, I would have liked that. That would have been a better usage of that like, idea. It just felt really forced and bad, and I didn't like that. But then, there are some really excellent moments, like the scene with Kirito and Asuna up in the heaven-like area above Aincrad. That's a good moment. There's some really good character stuff there. And I feel like it is a genuinely good scene with some striking visuals. And then, although the scene with Akiko Kayaba is not good because he just kind of says, "Why did I do this again? I don't know," which feels like a waste. It doesn't feel like it was worth anything in the long term. It's because it feels like, I forget. There's no answer to this, so it's ambiguous. It's not really ambiguous as much as it's just like the writers admitting they don't know why he would do this, and they don't have a good reason, which is not good. The writing is not great for the show. And then the final really good moment in this episode is when Kirito wakes up at the very end from his coma, and then he takes out the nerve gear, walks through the hallway with like a bright light at the end, and you see him walking through, and he's like muttering Asuna's name to himself. He's like, I gotta find Asuna, I gotta find Asuna. And while it is unrealistic that he would be able to get up and stand up after being in a coma for 2 years, I still do appreciate this moment. I do think that is a very good moment for the character, and it's impactful because you feel what Kirito feels here. You feel like the powerlessness of like, we're gonna die and we're not gonna get to know each other, and then it's just given back to you. Just like he wakes up, and then he realizes in his back of his head, like, Asuna's alive too, so I gotta find her. And that's a good moment. I don't think the love story is amazing, but for moments like that, I do think it is good, and I still do cling on to it, and I still do get invested in it. Which I know a lot of people don't, and that's fair. I don't think this is a great show. It's not. but I think it's okay. And when you add up all of my scores now, previously all my scores added up to an 89 out of 100. Now they add up to a 71, which I think is it's all right. I wouldn't put that into like the letter grade thing I did previously, which I gave that previous the season like a B plus previously. It'd be like a C minus now using that system. For me, I like to have it be like out of 5, so 70 out of 100 kind of adds up to like 3.5 stars out of 5. I think that's about where I stand. I probably lowered it a little bit just because if like the poor writing detracts a little bit, I'd put it around like a 3 out of 5. So that's where I have it now.
In conclusion, this season is okay. It's not bad, it's not great, it's somewhere in the middle for me. While I think some of the visual elements are well done, the elements of character and story kind of get thrown by the wayside in favor of spectacle. I think this is the incorrect choice for this kind of show. I feel that if I understood more about these characters, I would connect with their struggle so much more. And I think that if the story wasn't so scatterbrained, I'd enjoy it. Plus, the over-sexualization of the female characters is easily one of the biggest problems. But as is, this show is just okay. I wish they had done more with the concept and created something incredible, which was possible. But, oh well. It's just okay for now. Thank you guys for tuning in to watch this video. I'm trying to start a video revisiting all these videos, so this is probably going to be part 1 of 3. And expect part 2 sometime soon. I don't know when I'm going to post this. We'll see, whatever, haha. I don't want to create a schedule because it's not going to work out in the long run. And it's going to make me seem like I don't know what I'm doing, which I don't. So I'm just going to admit it, I don't know what I'm doing. But hopefully this will get uploaded. Hopefully there'll be a sequel. Alright, thank you guys. Have a good one. Take it easy.